My brothers and sisters of Burkina Faso, my African kin across the continent, and every soul across the globe who values the truth and the sanctity of human life, I stand before you today with a heart heavy with grief and a spirit burning with resolve. 42 lives, our people, our family, have been taken in a ruthless drone attack that has torn through the fabric of our nation. These were not just numbers, they were fathers, mothers, children, farmers, dreamers, and builders of our future. Their blood cries out from the soil of Burkina Faso, demanding justice, demanding truth, demanding that the world not turn its face away. I speak to you not as a distant figure of authority, but as a son of this land, a witness to its pain, a soldier of its freedom, and a voice for those who now have none. I speak to tell the world that this attack will not be buried in silence, that our tears will not be wasted, and that our struggle for dignity will not be erased by the selective lenses of international media. 42 of our brothers and sisters have been reduced to a statistic in foreign reports, if they are mentioned at all. While the world rushes to broadcast every minor event in the lands of the powerful, our suffering is brushed aside, our tragedies minimized, our stories distorted or ignored. Why is our pain invisible? Why is our loss less valuable? The same voices that shout of democracy and human rights turn mute when African blood is spilled. They send their drones to kill and their journalists to cover it up. They send their think tanks to justify it and their politicians to deny it. But we, the people of Burkina Faso, say no more. No more shall our people die in silence. No more shall our tears water the desert of indifference. No more shall the drone of foreign engines drown the heartbeat of African resistance. This is why I stand here today and why I call upon every citizen, every villager, every worker, every youth, every elder, awaken. The battle is no longer only on the fields, it is in the air, it is on the screens, it is in the words written about us, it is in the images chosen and the voices amplified or silenced. When a drone drops its payload, it kills bodies. When the media drops its silence, it kills truth. And without truth, justice is impossible. Without justice, peace is a lie. I say to the world, do not tell us this was a mistake. Do not tell us this was an unfortunate side effect of war. We know the pattern. We know the intent. Every time an African nation stands up for itself, refuses to bow to old masters, asserts its right to determine its own destiny, the violence begins. Economic pressure, political isolation, covert operations, then open attacks, masked as counterterrorism or humanitarian intervention. They will say they are fighting extremists, but who arms these extremists? Who benefits when Africa is kept in chaos? Who profits when our lands are unsafe, our people divided, our governments destabilized? Let me be clear, this drone strike is not just an act of war, it is an act of control. They want to remind us that our skies are not ours, that our lives are negotiable, that our sovereignty is conditional upon their approval. They want to make an example of Burkina Faso because we chose to stand upright, because we chose to reject exploitation, because we chose to partner with our African brothers and chart a path of independence. But to those who think they can scare us back into submission, hear this: Burkina Faso will not kneel. We have buried our martyrs before, and from their graves rose revolutions. We have tasted the poison of colonialism, and yet here we stand, our hearts beating, our soil still ours, our will unbroken. Each innocent life lost today becomes a seed of resistance for tomorrow. Each drone that rains death also rains awakening. To the families of the fallen, your grief is ours, your tears are ours, your cries echo in every corner of this land. I cannot bring back your loved ones, but I can promise you that they will not be forgotten. Their names will be spoken in our homes, taught in our schools, honored in our history. They are not collateral damage, they are the reason we fight. And to my African brothers and sisters beyond our borders, do not think this is only Burkina Faso's tragedy. It is Mali's warning, it is Niger's shadow, it is Ghana's tomorrow if we do not unite. What they test on us today, they will deploy on you tomorrow. If they succeed in silencing us, they will silence you. But if we rise together, if we share our stories, if we expose their crimes, if we fund our own journalists, if we build our own media strongholds, then no amount of propaganda can erase us. This is why I call upon you, support the voices of truth, Support the young men and women with cameras and microphones who brave the threats to document our suffering and our strength. Support the YouTube journalist who has no backing from corporations but has the courage to upload what others fear to say. Share their work, defend them when they are attacked, fund them when you can, because without them the truth will be buried beneath the rubble of drone strikes and the whispers of foreign correspondence. We live in a time where the media is as dangerous as the missiles. One can kill the body, the other can kill the memory of the body, and a people who forget they're dead, who allow their narrative to be written by others, are a people destined to lose not only their battles, but their very identity. That is why I, as a leader of this nation, must insist we will tell our own stories, we will mourn in our own words, we will seek justice on our own terms, and we will never again let the world pretend we are voiceless. This is not a speech of despair, it is a declaration of responsibility. If the international community will not value our lives, then we will value them ourselves. If their media will not speak our truth, then we will fade platforms that will. If their drones come to silence us, then our cameras will shout even louder. And make no mistake, justice will be pursued. We demand an investigation into this crime. We demand that those who ordered this attack face the court of humanity, if not theirs, then ours. We will gather evidence, we will document every name, every wound, every orphan child, every widow, every broken home. The world will know what was done here, and if they still choose to look away, let it be recorded that they chose comfort over conscience, silence over solidarity. Brothers and sisters, the struggle is heavy, but it is not hopeless. Look around Africa, nations are rising, people are awakening, colonial chains are rusting, from the Sahel to the Great Lakes, from the Cape to the Sahara, a new spirit is moving. It is the spirit of dignity, of ownership, of unity. The price of freedom has always been high, but the cost of submission is higher still. To the youth of Africa, you are the front line of this new battle, not with guns, but with truth, not with fear, but with fire in your eyes. Do not let them write your history for you. Do not wait for foreign approval to tell your own story. Every video you make, every post you share, every truth you speak is a blow against the empire of lies. And to the so-called powers of the world, to the ones who send drones instead of diplomats, I say this: you cannot kill a people's desire to be free. You cannot drone away a nation's memory. You cannot erase the African sun with your shadows. 42 lives have been taken, but millions of hearts now beat with their names. We will not rest. We will not forget. We will not surrender. Burkina Faso will rise from this smoke stronger, prouder, more united than before. And in our rising, Africa rises. Let the skies be filled with your machines. Our land is filled with our ancestors. Let your media ignore us. Our people hear us. Let your politics isolate us. Our unity will surround us. We are the descendants of those who fought without weapons, who marched without fear, who died without submission. So today, as we bury our fallen, we also plant the seeds of a future where no African child will live in fear of foreign drones. A future where our stories will not be filtered through colonial lenses. A future where justice is not begged for, it is built by our own hands. This is my promise to you, people of Burkina Faso. The blood of our martyrs will nourish the roots of our liberation. The tears of our widows will water the fields of our sovereignty. And the voices of our youth will echo louder than any silence the world tries to impose upon us. May their souls rest in power. May their names never fade. May their sacrifice awaken not only our nation, but our continent. Long live Burkina Faso. Long live African unity. Long live the truth that no drone can kill. 42 lives have been violently taken in a drone strike that has left our nation in mourning. This was not a mere accident or unfortunate circumstance. It was a deliberate act of aggression, targeting civilians, destroying families, and shattering communities. Each life lost was a story, a dream, and a future that has been cut short. Fathers, mothers, children, and neighbors, all victims of a weapon that recognizes no humanity, no innocence, and no morality. The blood of our people now stains our land, and their memory cries out for justice and accountability. The international response to this tragedy has been insufficient and shameful. While the world rushes to cover the misfortunes of powerful nations, our suffering is silenced, ignored, and minimized. Media outlets bury our stories beneath euphemisms, politicians turn away, and the perpetrators are shielded from scrutiny. This silence is a betrayal, a second act of violence that denies the dignity of the victims and insults the grief of their families. Africa is too often treated as expendable, and the value of its lives is measured not by justice, but by the convenience of global powers. We condemn this drone attack in the strongest possible terms. Burkina Faso will not allow the perpetrators to escape accountability. We demand a full, transparent investigation into this attack. Those responsible must be identified, exposed, and held answerable for the destruction they have caused. Our sovereignty is not negotiable, our people are not expendable, and our skies are not open for foreign aggression. The lives of the 42 will not fade into statistics, they will remain a call to action, a reminder that justice must be sought and truth must be defended. This tragedy must awaken us to the importance of speaking our own truth. We must document, report, and amplify our stories through independent journalism and platforms like YouTube, so the world cannot continue to ignore us. The attack was meant to instill fear and submission, but it has strengthened our resolve. Burkina Faso will honor the memory of the dead, protect its citizens, and defend its sovereignty. 42 lives have been lost, but our spirit remains unbroken, our will unshaken, and our demand for justice unwavering. The world has remained silent while 42 lives were taken in a drone strike on our soil. This silence is not accidental, it is deliberate. The same media outlets that rush to broadcast the misfortunes of powerful nations remain mute when Africans are killed. Our tragedies are buried beneath euphemisms, our suffering is minimized, and our voices are drowned out by narratives written far from our homes. When foreign lives are lost, the headlines scream, cameras flood the streets, and politicians demand action. When African lives are lost, we are told to wait, to mourn quietly, and to accept the indifference of those who claim to care about human rights. This silence is a betrayal. It is not neutral, it protects the perpetrators and erases the victims. By ignoring the massacre of our people, by failing to report the truth of our suffering, the international media becomes a weapon alongside the drones themselves. They kill twice, first with the missile, then with their omission. Every day that the story of our dead is left untold is a day that injustice thrives. Every headline that ignores our grief is a headline that shields those responsible. We refuse to accept this erasure. The 42 people who died were not statistics. They were fathers, mothers, children, and neighbors. Their names, their lives, their stories must be heard. Independent African journalism, citizen reporters, and platforms like YouTube have become the last defenders of truth, breaking through the walls of silence and exposing the realities the mainstream refuses to show. We call on our people, our youth, and our allies around the world to support these voices, to share their work, and to demand that the world sees our pain. Africa will no longer be invisible, our suffering will not be ignored, our deaths will not be hidden, and our stories will not be rewritten by outsiders. The drones may strike our people, but they cannot silence our voices. The international media may choose to look away, but truth cannot be buried forever. We speak now, loudly and clearly, so that the world cannot pretend it does not see what has happened. 42 lives have been taken, but their story, our story, and our fight for justice will continue. 42 lives have been brutally taken from Burkina Faso in a drone attack that has left our nation in mourning. This is not only a human tragedy, it is a violation of our sovereignty, a crime that demands justice. Every life lost carried meaning, purpose, and potential, and every family affected deserves accountability. We cannot and will not allow these deaths to fade into silence or be reduced to a statistic. Justice is not a favor to be requested, it is a right, and we intend to pursue it relentlessly. We call for a full and transparent investigation into this attack. Those who planned it, those who executed it, and those who authorized it must be identified, exposed, and held responsible. The perpetrators must face consequences for their actions, not hidden behind diplomacy, political alliances, or the selective memory of the international community. Burkina Faso's citizens demand that every life lost is acknowledged, every act of aggression condemned, and every responsible party brought to account. Accountability extends beyond naming those directly responsible. It requires challenging the structures that allow such attacks to occur with impunity. The world cannot continue to turn a blind eye to African lives. When foreign powers launch strikes on our land and the media ignores it, when global institutions fail to act, it is a system that encourages injustice. We reject this system. Our demand is clear: justice for the dead, transparency for the living, and guarantees that our people will not be treated as expendable. We also call on our citizens, youth, and independent journalists to participate in documenting the truth. Every image, every testimony, every story of the attack is a weapon against impunity. Platforms like YouTube provide a channel for voices that are otherwise silenced, ensuring that the world cannot ignore what happened in Burkina Faso. Truth and accountability are inseparable. The 42 lives lost cannot be replaced, but their memory will drive our determination to defend our sovereignty and demand justice. This attack was intended to instill fear, but it has only strengthened our resolve. Burkina Faso will not rest until the responsible parties are held accountable. Every life taken will be honored through action, and the call for justice will resonate until it is answered. In a world where drones can take 42 lives in a single strike, silence has become a weapon almost as deadly as the missile itself. When mainstream international media chooses to ignore our suffering, it leaves a void in which lies, half-truths, and propaganda flourish. The massacre of our people could have been hidden, minimized, or distorted, but today we have tools that no foreign power can control. Today, independent journalists, content creators, and platforms like YouTube are our front line in the fight for truth. Independent media empowers us to tell our own story, unfiltered, unedited, and uncompromised. It allows the world to see what is happening on our soil through the eyes of those who live it, not through the lens of distant editors who profit from our silence. These journalists risk their safety to capture what others would rather hide, to amplify the voices of the victims, and to document the injustice that would otherwise vanish in the shadow of global indifference. Supporting them is not optional, it is essential. We call upon every citizen of Burkina Faso, every African in the diaspora, and every supporter of justice worldwide to stand behind independent media. Subscribe to their channels, share their content, fund their work if you can, and speak their truth as your own. Each video uploaded, each testimony recorded, each story shared is a strike against the machinery of oppression and a step toward accountability. Platforms like YouTube allow us to bypass the selective coverage of the mainstream and create a narrative rooted in our reality, a narrative that cannot be silenced by power or money. The 42 lives lost in the drone strike will not be forgotten because we now have the tools to ensure the world remembers. When the mainstream media ignores African suffering, independent journalism becomes our conscience, our amplifier, and our shield. Supporting these voices strengthens not only the truth, but also the future of our continent, ensuring that African stories are told by Africans, for Africans, and for the world to see. The attack was meant to instill fear and submission, but independent journalism turns that fear into awareness, that submission into action, and that silence into power. Our stories, our truth, and our voices will reach every corner of the globe, ensuring that those who committed these acts are exposed, remembered, and held accountable. The attack that claimed 42 lives in Burkina Faso is not only an assault on our nation, it is an attack on Africa itself. For too long, our continent has been divided, weakened by borders drawn by colonizers, manipulated by foreign powers, and silenced by the same forces that exploit our land and our people. This drone strike is part of a larger pattern. When African nations assert their sovereignty, when we resist exploitation, when we choose to rise, we are met with violence and indifference. But Africa cannot rise alone. Africa must rise together. Pan-African unity is not a slogan, it is a necessity. The same powers that dropped drones on our people yesterday could strike elsewhere tomorrow. What happens in Burkina Faso today is a warning to Mali, to Niger, to Ghana, and to every nation that dares to stand independent of foreign control. Our struggle is shared, and our resistance must be collective. We must see beyond borders, beyond divisions, beyond the narratives imposed on us by those who seek to keep us weak. The enemies of our continent are united, so must we be. This unity is a form of resistance. It is a resistance that rejects fear, that rejects submission, and that refuses to allow our stories to be written by outsiders. African nations, African youth, African journalists, and African leaders must come together to defend our sovereignty, protect our people, and amplify our truths. Independent media, Pan-African institutions, regional solidarity, these are our shields and our weapons in a world that seeks to suppress us. The 42 lives lost are a call to action, not despair. Their sacrifice must remind us that African blood is precious, that our people are not expendable, and that our future depends on cooperation, courage, and resilience. We must share information, support one another, and hold our governments and international allies accountable. Our resistance must be organized, principled, and unyielding. This is the spirit of Pan-Africanism, to see the struggle of one nation as the struggle of all, to rise when one falls, and to protect each other from forces that wish to divide, weaken, and control us. Burkina Faso will mourn its dead, but it will also stand as a symbol of unity, resistance, and determination. Africa cannot be silenced. Africa will not submit. Together we rise, we resist, and we prevail.